My name is Robert Mitchell. I'm 75 years old, and I'm sitting in a cafe in Chiang Mai where the fan overhead makes the same clicking sound it made 3 years ago when I first walked in here. There's a hospital wristband in my wallet. The ink's almost completely faded now. Name, date, patient number. All of it bleeding into the plastic like it was never really there to begin with. I keep it folded behind my bank card where I see it every time I pay for something, which is what I do now. Pay for things, pay for company, pay for the feeling that I'm not alone in a country where I don't speak the language and nobody knows my real name. I was a civil engineer for 37 years, built bridges, road systems, infrastructure that connects people to the places they need to go. I understood load distribution, stress points, how weight moves across distance. I could tell you exactly how much pressure a structure could take before it started to crack. But I never applied any of that to my own life. Sharon died in March 4 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. 6 weeks from diagnosis to funeral. We'd been married for 41 years, and then one Tuesday morning I woke up and she wasn't there anymore. Just her side of the bed, still indented from where she used to sleep. My daughters came home for the funeral. Emily flew in from Calgary. Sarah drove up from Seattle. They stayed for a week, helped sort through their mother's things, asked if I was okay, asked if I needed anything. I told them I was fine. I told them that a lot in those first few months. Every phone call, every text message. I'm fine, I'm managing, and don't worry about me. What I didn't tell them was that I couldn't sleep in our bedroom anymore, that I'd moved to the guest room and still woke up at 3 a.m. expecting to hear Sharon's breathing beside me, that the house felt like a museum of someone else's life, and I was just the security guard walking through empty halls. Retirement had already been difficult. You spend 4 decades defining yourself by what you build, and then one day they hand you a watch and a handshake, and suddenly you're supposed to figure out who you are without the blueprints and the site meetings and the problems that needed solving. But losing Sharon, that removed the last structure holding me up. I started looking at expat forums online, first just reading, then joining, then posting. Thailand kept coming up. Warm weather, low cost of living, fresh start. Men my age talking about how they'd reinvented themselves, found peace, met younger women who made them feel alive again. The word they used a lot was freedom. Freedom from cold winters, freedom from empty houses, freedom from adult children with their own busy lives and their polite obligation phone calls. I told myself I was retiring abroad, moving towards something, not running away. I told myself a lot of things. I met Dao 3 days after I arrived in Chiang Mai. She worked at a cafe near my apartment, 28 years old, smile like morning light, and when she laughed at my terrible attempt to order coffee and Thai, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. I felt needed. She'd ask about my day, bring me extra pastries, stay and talk during her breaks. Within 2 weeks, I was there every morning. Within a month, I was paying her rent. Within 2 months, she'd moved into my apartment, and I'd convinced myself this was what healing looked like. My daughters called less frequently. At first, I told myself they were just busy. Emily with her teaching job, Sarah with her twins. But the truth was simpler. I'd stopped calling them back promptly, stopped asking about their lives, stopped being present for the small moments that build connection. When Emily called to tell me about her promotion, I was distracted, watching Dao get ready for a night out with her friends. I congratulated her, said something vague about being proud, and ended the call quickly. When Sarah sent photos of the twins' first day of kindergarten, I looked at them on my phone while sitting at a bar, Tao on my arm, and I typed back a thumbs-up emoji. The distance I'd moved to find freedom was working exactly as I'd hoped. They were learning to live without me, and I was learning to pretend that didn't matter. The thing about false freedom is that it feels real for a while. I'd wake up to warm sunlight instead of Canadian gray. Tao would make breakfast, and we'd eat on the balcony overlooking the city. I'd go to the gym, meet other expats for lunch, come home to someone young and beautiful who smiled when I walked through the door. I told myself I'd earned this. 4 decades of work, 41 years of marriage. I told myself I deserved to be happy. But happiness kept requiring maintenance I wasn't prepared for. Tao's family needed money for her mother's surgery, and then her brother's business needed an investment. Then there was the new phone, the new motorbike, the friend who needed help with rent. I paid for it all, because that was the agreement, even though we never spoke it aloud. I paid for the companionship, the youth, the feeling that I mattered to someone. The money wasn't the problem. I had a good pension, decent savings. The problem was that every transaction made it clearer what this was. Not a relationship, not a fresh start, just a different kind of emptiness that cost more and felt worse because I was choosing it. Emily stopped calling altogether around month 18. Sarah would text on birthdays and holidays, short messages, polite distance. I'd respond with the same energy, convincing myself this was fine. This was how families naturally drift apart when children grow up and have their own lives. I was building bridges and roads for 37 years, and I couldn't see that the most important connections in my life were crumbling from neglect. It happened on a Tuesday evening. I was walking back from the market, carrying groceries, when the pain hit my chest like a hammer. Sharp, spreading, making my left arm go numb. I managed to sit down on the curb before my legs gave out. Someone called an ambulance. I remember hands lifting me, voices speaking Thai, the ceiling of the ambulance passing overhead. I woke up in a hospital bed, tubes in my arm, monitors beeping beside me. A doctor explained in careful English that I'd had a cardiac event, not a full heart attack, but close. Stress test tomorrow. More observation needed. Tao wasn't there. I'd been in the hospital for 6 hours. My phone showed 14 missed calls. 12 were from Emily, 2 from Sarah, none from Tao. I texted her, told her where I was, asked if she could come. She replied 3 hours later, "Sorry, at friend birthday. Come tomorrow maybe." She didn't come tomorrow, or the next day. When I was discharged 72 hours later and took a taxi back to the apartment, she was there, casual, asking if I was feeling better, the same way you'd ask about a cold. That night, lying in bed, I looked at the hospital wristband they'd forgotten to remove. My name, patient number, admission date, all printed in fading ink. And I understood something I'd been hiding from for 2 years. Nobody knew where I was, not really, not in the way that matters. My daughters had my address, my phone number, but they didn't know my life. They didn't know which cafe I went to, which doctor I saw, who I spent my time with. If I died in that hospital, it would have taken days for anyone back home to find out, maybe weeks. I'd called it freedom, but I'd just traded one kind of loneliness for another, more expensive kind. The freedom I'd been chasing was just permission to disappear, and I'd taken it. I called Emily the next morning. She answered on the first ring, voice tight with worry she was trying to hide. Dad, thank God. I've been trying to reach you for days. I know. I'm sorry. I was in the hospital. Silence. Then, you were where? I told her everything. The chest pain, the 3 days alone, the realization that nobody here really knew me, and the people who did were 7,000 miles away, living lives I'd excused myself from. She listened, didn't interrupt. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Dad, she finally said, we called you 37 times over the past month. You answered 4 times. We stopped calling as much because you stopped wanting to hear from us. She wasn't angry. That was worse. She was just stating a fact. I know, I said. I know. Sarah's boys ask about you sometimes. They barely remember what you look like. I looked at the hospital wristband on the nightstand. The ink was already starting to fade in the humid air. I thought moving here would help me heal, I said. After your mother died, I thought distance would make things easier. Did it? No. Another silence. Are you coming home? She asked. I looked around the apartment, at the furniture I'd bought to fill space, at the balcony where I ate breakfast with someone who hadn't visited me in the hospital, at the life I'd constructed that looked like freedom but felt like exile. I don't know, I said. I don't know if home is still there. It is, Emily said quietly, but you have to decide if you want to come back to it. I'm still in Chiang Mai. It's been 4 months since the hospital. Dao moved out. I talk to my daughters now. Really talk. Emily calls twice a week. I've started planning a trip back to Canada for Christmas. I don't know if phone calls can rebuild what I let erode, but I'm trying. The hospital wristband is still in my wallet. I spent my career building bridges, but I never understood that the most important bridge I needed to maintain was the one connecting me to my family. I thought grief gave me permission to burn it. I was wrong. I built the exile. I paid for the loneliness. I chose the easy emptiness over the hard work of staying connected. The hospital made me see it clearly. But I'm the one who has to live with what I built. And maybe, I'm the one who has to start building something different.